Hey everyone, this is Lomi, and today I'll show you how to make a pair of breeches to finish that Littlefee outfit I started. So grab your copy of the pattern off my site, and we'll get started by sewing darts into the back pieces. I marked the pieces with the darts marked in the pattern, and sew along these lines with a straight stitch. In a thinner fabric, you'd probably want to knot the ends instead of using a backstitch, but on a heavier fabric like the corduroy I'm using, backstitching is fine. If you're using a thick fabric, you may also need to increase your seam allowances just a tiny bit to compensate for the weight of the material. After the darts, we'll make the front fly. The center of the front pieces has these little flaps, which are the easiest way to make a functional fly in such a small scale. Using a zigzag stitch, finish the edges of just these curved flaps. I'm doing my best to keep my hands out of the way, but it's tough with small pieces, so bear with me. After the edges of the flaps are finished, fold the flap to the inside of the piece and straight stitch just along the edge to hold it there. Then put both front pieces right sides together, and we'll sew the bottom part of the front curve right here, just up to the bottom of the fly flaps. Backstitch at both ends of the seam for extra strength. With these pieces joined here, it creates a perfect fly front. Finish that tiny seam with a zigzag stitch. Picking up the back pieces again, sew the back center curve together to create the seat of the pants. Finish the edge with a zigzag stitch. Now take your front and back halves of the pants and put them with right sides together. We'll sew the inseam next. Pin the inside of the leg closed and sew up the leg, turning at the crotch and sewing back down the other leg. Make sure you backstitch at both edges to keep your seams durable. Then finish the edges of the fabric with a zigzag stitch. You'll probably notice I'm clipping the threads as I go. You can wait and trim a bunch at once if you prefer. I'm just trying to keep everything tidy for the video. Fold the pants open and find the bottom edge of an unfinished pant leg. We'll take the wide rectangle of fabric for the leg cuff and line it up with the bottom edge of the pant leg with right sides together. Sew both cuffs this way with a straight stitch, finishing the fabric edge with a zigzag stitch. Now when we fold the legs of the pants closed, we'll pin down around the little bubble that becomes the pocket, down the side of the leg, and down the cuff in one line. You'll start sewing at the waist, making sure to backstitch for strength. Then sew around the curve of the pocket and down the leg and cuff. Curves on small pieces like this can be tricky, so check both sides to make sure you didn't go off the edge of the fabric on the opposite side. Redo the seam if you need to. Then finish with a zigzag stitch and go to the other side of the pants, repeating the same process. When we turn the pants right side out, the pockets will already be in place, hidden in the side seam of the pants. Isn't that easy? Next, we'll finish the machine sewing by pinning the two waistband pieces with right sides together and sew up one side, across the top, and down the other side, backstitching at the beginning and end of this long continuous seam. Before turning the waistband right side out, it's helpful to clip the corners close to the line of stitching, which will help it turn and lay flat. You can use a pencil or something similar to push the corners nice and square as you turn the waistband right side out. You'll end up with something nice looking like this, which I've pinned for ironing. While the iron heats up, we'll finish the cuffs. Turn the edge of the cuff to the inside of the leg by about 1/4 inch. Then fold the cuff in half so that the folded edge is to the inside, and the edge of the cuff lines up along the seam where you originally joined it to the pants. It's a little finicky in small scale, so it may take a little work, but it gives a really good end result. If you pin things like I do, you'll want to be very careful while working around your pins so you don't get poked. If the pins make you nervous, you can try to do without, or else just use a needle and thread to put in a couple big temporary stitches, which should hold it where you need it. I'll sew the cuffs in place using a blind hem, which is almost invisible. You'll start by slipping the needle under the edge of the cuff to hide the knot, then making a tiny, tiny stitch through the fabric of the pant leg. Slide the needle through the folded edge of the cuff for a larger stitch, then make another tiny stitch through the pant leg. Man, this is hard to record. It's so tiny I can't seem to keep it focused or properly in frame. I'll have a video about hand stitches soon though, and it'll be easier to see then if you had trouble this time. Sew all the way around the cuff, and when you finish and turn it right side out, you'll see that those tiny stitches are almost invisible. Once the iron is hot, I press the waistband with the bottom raw edges turned to the inside by about 1/4 of an inch. It'll look something like this afterward. We'll want to fold the edges out again so that we can pin it to the waist of the pants with right sides together. Line the end up with the end of the flap on the underneath of the fly. Then line up the edges of the fabric, making sure you have the right sides together. These pants are designed to have an extended waistband that buttons to one side. So once you've gone all the way around the pants, there should be a little flap left that extends past the end. However, in such a small scale, waistbands can be super finicky. They might stretch a little, or the pants can, which can mess up the measurements. So if it seems too long or too short, feel free to make it shorter or cut a new waistband to make it a bit longer before sewing. It's super difficult to sew a waistband this small with a machine, so I'm attaching mine by hand using a simple running stitch with tiny stitches. My hand sewing is actually kind of horrible, but it won't show, so it's okay. Turn the pants wrong side out to make this next part easier. You'll sew the little extended flap of the waistband closed with a hidden stitch, sliding the needle through one fold and then the other. Get back and frame me, come on. Sew up to the end, then back the other direction, and continue around the whole waistband using a blind hem stitch like we did for the cuffs. A wide stitch through the folded edge of the waistband, then a tiny stitch through the fabric of the pants. To add closures to the front, I put the pants on my doll and mark the points where I want the snaps to go using a pencil. I'll put 2 snaps on the waistband, just to make sure everything lays right. Then it's time to add snaps and a couple decorative buttons. If you were wondering why we did the inseam first and had a seam on the outer side of the leg cuff, this is why. When I add a couple decorative buttons right beside that seam on the outside of the leg, it creates the impression of a button closure on the cuff without having to really make one. I add snaps to the waistband, making sure to check the fit as I go. It's important to check a couple times to make sure the snaps line up properly, because a bad fit could cause gaps or wrinkles. Then I add the finishing touch of the single button on the offset waistband, and they're finished. Now we can finally put the whole outfit together. Breeches, shirt, and vest. I don't have a boy doll in this size, but I think Lulu makes a pretty cute model for it anyway. I might make a slightly smaller collar on the shirt next time, but on the whole, I like how the outfit went together. And that's all for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching the creation of this outfit. and I hope it's helped someone make a cute outfit for one of their dolls. And if you want to see more tutorials like this in the future, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future updates. Thanks for joining me this time. Bye!